Hey everybody. Okay, so I wanted to give another update video about my classes. Um, so this is my 7th week. So if you have been watching my videos, then you know that my classes are only 7 weeks online and they're extremely intensive, like extremely intensive. So this is my 7th week of my research methods assessments course, and still maintaining my 4.0. What? So excited. Although I know that a 4.0, sometimes I'm like, listen, like you can have the point, just throw the point away. I don't even care. But most of the time I don't do that because I'm still working on not being an A-type personality, where to the extent that it is draining me. Like, I try and seek perfection to the point of my own frustration, and that's horrible. Not a good trait to have. And I own that. Like, it's very problematic to be rigid, like, especially when you're dealing with people, because most people are like, I am not going to follow your guidelines. Like, you're freaking crazy. And I have to check myself constantly, like, Camille, why are you having an attitude right now? Like, these people are not little robots that are like going at your command. So, to kind of piggyback on that, tonight I had a meeting with my Theta Chi Sigma organization for the school, and right now they're kind of like deciding who wants to be like the next president and secretary and treasurer. Basically, what um, it is not officially a chapter in our school, but it is an official chapter for the counseling field, where once you are recognized as a chapter in your school. So maybe if you're going to a school right now and you actually are in that organization, I'd be really curious to see what you guys do, because ours is very much green and in its infancy. So there's a lot of just unorganized behavior. And no, that is not just my A-type personality talking. It literally is not organized because it's so new. So you can't really fault anybody for that. Everybody just learns as you go, and you kind of like work it out and work the kinks out for the next set of people. Um, so they are trying to get, the presidency, the secretary, the treasurer, and everything like that together, because a lot of everybody that is holding a position is graduating this summer. Not me. I wish. But I'm not currently holding any position. I just joined after I had residency last year, and it's beneficial because you can network and you can kind of like have a little bit more interaction with a lot of students outside of just the students in your class or cohort, or perhaps students that you've engaged in like in residency and stuff. It kind of has, even though it's a small, like a really small amount of people, like I think tonight's meeting only had 14 people, but there's like probably like 200 or plus people in the program. So it's very, very small, but I don't think most people realize that you can actually join it. The only criteria is that you have to have a 3.5 GPA and have 9 credit hours in the program. So right now, but it's really great because once you actually become, recognized in that Theta Chi Sigma, once you get recognized as a chapter for your school, then it really opens up doors for scholarships, grants. It helps with mentoring. So it's a really great networking opportunity that a lot of people try and take advantage of in schools that are recognized. So this is kind of to say, like I've said before, try and involve yourself in what's going on in your school. Don't just be the person like I was in undergrad. I'm sorry, I'm kind of like scrolling for something. Don't be the person that's in your, how I was in my undergrad, I should say, where you just kind of go through. So, Theta Chi Sigma, it's a really great opportunity to just get to know your peers, and it will open up doors. You can put it on your resume. I mean, if you want it, especially when you're going into the counseling field like me, and I don't have any experience in this industry. I mean, I have healthcare experience because that's, I'm on the other side of it where I'm doing all the insurance, the paperwork, revenue cycle, like that is the industry that I'm currently in right now. So being able to join an organization like this will benefit me when I go into job interviews and when I have it on my resume, because I can say, listen, I have the experience, I have the ability to network with other people. It really will help you because in these meetings, although the ones that we have are pretty small, you get to see other people that perhaps live close to you or at least in your same state. So you can ask them like, hey, you're at this point. Do you know any places in the area where we could like meet up, or conferences, or even field work opportunities, or just like go over what are the requirements in your state for licensure? So, look out for programs in your school that could help you and advance you. Don't be scared, even if you go to a brick and mortar school, to really look at what are some organizations. And I know how this sounds, because when I was an undergrad and I would hear people say stuff like that, I'd be like, okay. And I have a job, I have schoolwork, like I have a life. But literally an hour, the meetings are 1 hour once a month. So it's not like we're talking about something that's going to take up a plethora of time. And plus, it is at night. Well, except for my friend that lives in Alaska, it's like right in the middle of her day. But and she's the only one, unfortunately, that lives in Alaska. So nobody really like takes that into account when they're scheduling any meetings. It's horrible, but lucky for her, she actually stays home. So I do feel bad sometimes because I'm like, oh, yeah, no, I couldn't just stop in the middle of my day for like doing something. Like I work. But I'm glad at least she has that flexibility. That's really great. But, I kind of wanted to give an update on that. I also wanted to give an update on, it kind of correlates with the organization in the sense of making sure that you're connecting with people as you go along in your program, because I emphasize this so much, because psychology is all about your feelings, your emotions, and your personality just overall. Like when I was in my undergrad in business, economics, marketing, I mean, like you're doing numbers, you're looking at like business plans and marketability, and like your personality and who you are as a person is not necessarily the forefront of your skill sets that they're looking at. Perfectly honest, it's just not. And so in this industry, your personality is so much more important. Which, I have to get used to that, because I'm the type of person that's like, okay, but what are your skill sets? Like, that's great. You're a nice person. What are your skills? Like, I have to think about that, because so many people, just like myself, are very new to this industry. So having that mindset is not going to be very helpful, and it will actually be very beneficial for people that enter in. Like, if you have, just like me, a undergrad in something completely different than what your master's degree in, do not be discouraged by that, especially entering into the field of psychology, because your personality and your willingness to be open to change is so much more important. It really, really is. And I cannot stress that enough to help people like with their confidence and not feel so insecure. Like if you're watching this video and you're at the point where you are contemplating even switching your career from whatever you're doing right now to being in the psychology world as a mental health counselor, please do not get discouraged by people saying, well, what was your undergrad? Okay, so what's your experience? Well, what do you think you can bring to this field? Like, how much volunteer work have you done for the community? Like, okay, first of all, I work. I try and do volunteering when I can, but let me be 100. I can't volunteer all the time. Like some people are like, oh, I volunteer here, I volunteer. I'm like, when do you do work? Do you not work? If you don't work, then I can understand if you volunteer all the time. I try and do volunteerism when I can, and that is not all the time. Like I might be able to slide in a few events or organizations here and there. Most of my charity, I guess if you would say, is I will do monetary donations to organizations that I support. And I know that's horrible because it's like so much more impactful to get out into the community and not just like, send money. But sometimes if that's all I can give, then I feel like at that moment in time, as long as I am giving to something to make somebody else have a better life, then that's something. So don't feel discouraged. Don't feel like I can't volunteer, so I'm going to be a horrible psychologist, because I know on my application, they were like, oh, well, what volunteering do you do? Blah, blah, blah. And like, all I could put was like, okay, I do the suicide awareness walk, or I donate to animal shelters, or I have, before did tutoring. Like, you got to look at what are your assets instead of focusing on what are the comparisons to other people that have an undergrad and previous work experience in the field. You just cannot get caught up on that. So, I just really wanted to stress that, because I know me just filling out the application, I was so nervous. And then, you know what, let me just like make this about what my experience was getting into this college, because I don't even think I did a video about that. So I guess this might turn into a video like that. So I spent so much time trying to find a school because I needed to still be working. So I did a lot of research, and I found that it was important to have a ACA accredited or a KCREP accredited school. So there are a lot of programs out there that are not ACA or KCREP accredited. You want to steer away from those, like your behind's on fire and run. Don't go to those schools, because chances are they're just taking your money, and your credits really aren't going to be worth anything, because you're going to have to like see if they'll transfer into a program that actually is KCREP or ACA accredited, or both. And I also, a lot of schools did not have programs for clinical counseling that led to licensure. So let me repeat that again, because the fine print is important. Clinical mental health counselors must be licensed. You cannot call yourself a clinical mental health counselor unless you are licensed, and that is in every state nationwide. It does not change. It might change on the requirements. It might change on the test that you take, but at the end of the day, you must have a license in order to practice, because you must be able to assess people and diagnose people. It's important that you have your licensure, because it's important to make sure that you are diagnosing people correctly, which then could turn into sometimes suggestion for medication, which at that point you would obviously be working with a actual medical physician to partner up with, perhaps. Not all the time. It depends on what setting that you're working in. If you're working in, say, a hospital setting, that might be more conducive. If you're working in a private industry, there might be a couple other people, like a supervising physician or something like that, that you would have to pair up with. Not all the time, but just throwing out examples. So you want to make sure that the school is accredited. Please, 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 please do your research, because, and also make a list of what you want. Research what it is to be a mental health, a clinical mental health counselor, because you might think in theory it sounds, oh, that sounds amazing. Like, I can get my licensure, I can then get my PSYD or my PhD, and then I'll be doctor whoever, and then I can have my own practice. Like, that's all great. Trust me, that's a wonderful goal. But I think a lot of people, they think of the goal, but they don't think of what it takes to obtain the goal. And let me tell you, it is not easy. It is very, very trying at times. And I'm like, oh my God, why? Listen, I'm still trying to hit that lotto. So I'm just saying. But it is very, very trying. So do your research on what it means to enter into this field. See what your passion level is. You know, do you have a certain demographic that you want to serve? What is the reason behind wanting to get into this field? Now, these are some questions, and I'm thinking about, I'm talking to you guys, but as I'm talking to you guys, I'm thinking like, wait a minute, these are the same questions that I was asked on my application and that I was asked on my interview to get into grad school. So the interview for grad school actually ended up being with our field placement professor for the program. She does all the clinical placements, and so she did my interview, and oh my God, talk about just like nerves, because at this point, if you watch like my very beginning videos of this channel, I was dead set. I was like, I'm going to go to pre-med, then med. I'm going to be a neuropsychologist or a neuropsychologist. Like, I was just like, okay, I'm going to get into this field and this is it. Everybody, all hands on deck. How do I do this? I don't have this as my undergrad. I have no, like only a few science classes. And really the rest is like math. And so that didn't pan out. It didn't pan out because it just wasn't conducive to my life to just take the time and go to school. I know that sounds really horrible, but you really have to check yourself in your own goals. So the teacher or the professor had said, okay, so why do you want to enter into this field? And you know, it's kind of like when you go on a regular interview and they're like, so tell me, why do you want to work here? And you're like, because I want the money. But really, I was, you know, at that point I was really nervous. I said, because I'm changing careers all my life. Well, except for like a huge portion of my like childhood, I wanted to be a dentist. I'm just kidding. But no, I really did though. I wanted to be a dentist, but then I wanted to be a psychiatrist for a very long time. And then I kind of got caught up in the whole, everybody goes to business school and, you know, you run business, you go to Wall Street, you make money and you have a great life. So I kind of got caught up in that. And then I'm kind of like, why, Camille, why did you do that? That's just not you. So I felt very stuck in the role that I'm in right now, working in the health industry, but on the side of the kind of like that administrative part and revenue cycle. So like super boring, no personality involved unless you're like checking an insurance on the phone, you know, like, I can't. But so my whole thing was, I was stuck. I felt stuck. Like, I was like, okay, I'm just now in my 30s and I feel stuck. Like, I got to switch things up. So, what ended up happening was I decided that I wanted to search for a school. And I decided that the school that I found was going to best meet my needs for going to school and work and making sure it was towards licensure. And I felt like my passion for helping other people, because I do find myself many times just like basically giving free therapy. And it's not even like how some people think, oh, I listened to you and we had a chit chat like a girlfriend's talk. Like, I really feel like I'm the type of person that you could talk to. I'm, first of all, not going to tell your business. And I don't know. I think it's something about me where people just open up. It's so weird. Like, for the longest time in my life, people just like gravitate towards me. And it's like, I feel like I'm taking on everybody's emotions. And people that I don't even know will just lay like the heaviest stuff on me. And I guess something about me, they just feel like they can open up and talk. So I don't know. And sometimes it's draining and other times it's not, because I can have my own emotions separate from the emotions that the people are placing on me. And that's really important in this industry, that you must be able to connect, but then have a healthy disconnect as well. So that was kind of my reason for why I wanted to switch. Another question was, how do you feel you work in groups? I'm like, so here we go. We're going to set me up like this? Okay. So I said, well, I feel like I do, really well working in groups. What did she say? Because in my undergrad, I didn't do a lot of group work. Like in business, you have some classes where it's like group. And then like a huge majority, when you think about clinical counseling, like almost every class is like group work or dyads. It's insane. Which I wish they would have told me that. But you don't really do a lot of group work in business, like not as much as you do in clinical counseling. So I know some people are watching this that are actually probably in the business industry, or like that's their undergrad and they're like, oh, I did a ton of group work. Listen, you think you did a ton of group work, but trust me, this is just about every class. So I'm going to tell you guys that because nobody told me that. So yeah, that was kind of like shocking. And so, I had said I am a very organized A-type personality. And when we have group work, I like to make sure that everybody has chosen the parts that they feel they would do best at, and that we all stick to agreements that we make in the beginning and throughout the process to ensure that everybody is being held accountable. And I like to make sure that everybody is doing their parts. So the person that's interviewing me, now this is what you got to be prepared for, because sometimes I feel like they try and throw stuff at you to like see how you react. And I don't know if this is what she was doing or not, or she just was like being a passive listener and really didn't hear what I had to say. But she was like, so you're telling me that you like to be in charge of every group? I said, what? I said, and listen, you got to stick up for yourself. I said, that is not at all what I just said to you. And I said it just like that. And I know that she was probably like on the phone, like, really? But I was looking at my phone like, really? Because that's not what I said at all. Like, how you gather all that information and then come with basically saying that I need to run everything? No, I said people need to be held accountable. So if you feel like that's the definition of running everything, I'm going to need you to get a new dictionary. So I corrected her and I said, no, that's not what I said. And, kind of reiterated some key points of what I had said. And so we had moved past that. And then let me see, what are some other questions? Because I know nobody really told me what to expect. So I figure, why not tell you guys? So let me see. Oh, she asked, what are some of your experiences in the counseling profession? And I was very honest. I said, I really don't have any. I've done tutoring I've done volunteering a little bit here and there, not as much as some people where they're like, I have been working for this foundation, or I created this foundation and I've been doing this since I'm 12 years old. But, there will be those people that either are lying or they're just not, they're just super intimidated with this is their life, volunteering. So, you got to consider that you have your own things that you can bring to the table that make you unique. And that's the one thing about, I feel like the reason why I got into this school is, one, I did have good grades in my undergrad. So please make sure that you have that, because it is very competitive to get into these programs because they are so small. And they're small for a reason, because it's towards your licensure, and they really want to have, on at least the school that I am at, they want to have a hands-on approach. So smaller classrooms, more interaction is the key to success, pretty much is their motto. At least that's the way it feels. And so, you want to make sure that you are opening up during your interview process. So when they ask you about what is an influential time in your life. Now, this was actually on the written part of the application. What is an influential time in your life that you feel has brought you to wanting to be a counselor? That one, you're going to have to sit on and think about it, because you don't want to pour out your whole life and then are like, ooh, she might be still working through some things. I don't know. But then again, they like a diverse set of people, at least the school that I go to. So, they might be like, oh, okay, this person has had XYZ. I mean, there are people in this program that have had some very life-changing, altering news headline type of things that they've been involved in or that have happened to them. So don't be afraid to open up, but please protect yourself. Don't feel like you have to open up to an extreme extent that you are tearing off layers of yourself that you're not willing to share. Because I know sometimes people feel like the more they share, or the deeper that they get, the better their chances are. And then if you don't get in, then you're probably going to feel really exposed and kind of like, okay, I just opened myself up and look what happened. And then that's going to make you feel rejected. So please make sure that you're cognizant of not, opening yourself up to a point that if you do receive a rejection from the school that you open up to, that it's not going to affect you in a way of feeling so self-conscious about relaying who you are to people. So then another question that I had was, this one kind of threw me through a loop. So I'm going to see when I say this, if anybody else felt like this, because I was like, wait, what? She had asked me, when was a time that you worked with somebody from another culture that made you look at your own culture in a different way? Listen, I was like, wait, what? I mean, I got what the question was asking, but I'm like, I don't know if I've ever interacted with a person of another culture that made me look at my own culture in a different way. So that one was really trippy. I think I really bombed that one. And I still, even right now, I'm like, how would I even answer that? Because dealing with people from other cultures, being a person that is from an African American culture, I was like, okay, I can speak on my experience of interacting with people from different cultures, like people that are Hispanic, like Mexican or Lebanese, Puerto Rican, Cuban. I can speak on my experiences with working with those people or friendships with those people, but how it made me look at my own culture different. I don't think that it actually makes me look at my own culture different. The way I answered the question, let me just get to that instead of rambling. The way I answered that question was, I feel like it made me see that my culture and this other person's culture I was able to find similarities. And from seeing those similarities, I was able to connect to that person greater. Because when you look at other cultures, there's so many cross similarities, not even just in the food or the music, but just the way you experience things in life are very similar. And so, sometimes when you get tripped up on these questions for grad school, you kind of have to not take the question at the first thing that comes to your mind of what is the exact answer to the exact question. You have to answer it in the way that you feel is best suited for you. And at that moment, I felt like, okay, I don't really feel like somebody else's culture changed the way I look at my culture. It really made me view my culture in comparison to theirs, and I was able to find a way to connect. So that was one question. Another question was, let me see. Since with this school, we have to do 2 residencies in Chicago, they were just like, are you aware that this school is a partial, what do they say, a blended program, which basically means a blended program, and this will help you when you're searching for schools. Is a blended program is when you have some online and some in-person schooling. So for me, when I was finding schools that said blended, they were talking about, okay, during the week, you do all your schoolwork, but then on the weekend, we might meet for 1 or 2 days or 1 or 2 hours. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to work for my life. So when you see blended, please make sure that you're checking out and seeing what exactly that entails, because it's not always what you think. And so since this was only going to be for 4 days, it used to be 5 or 6, but it's only 4 days in the year. So really, that's not a long time. Just make sure if you work, you have your vacation hours, because last year I had just quit my other job and started a new job, and I didn't really have vacation hours. So I had to take 2 days off that I was under contract. I was a temp to hire contract worker, this kind of sideline real quick. And the contract was 72 hours, or no, 720 hours or 750 hours or something like that. And then you would get hired permanent on to the company's payroll, which I'm permanent now. But during that time period, even though you're working for this company, I think by the time I had residency last year, I was working for the company for about 6.5 months. And then once you get signed on permanent, you have to still wait their 90 days to take time. So you literally will be waiting 9 months before you could take any time. I'm like, get your life. I'm learning about self-care. And so self-care means she needs to take a break. So when you're looking at programs, make sure that you are really comparing the program and comparing it to your current life, because you don't want to change your life so much for a program that you end up resenting it if you don't like it, or you have to change it, or it's just not giving you what you feel you need. You don't, because that's going to give you more anxiety and stress. So really, really look at the descriptions of these programs, and don't be scared to call these people and ask them, hey, send an email, call, talk to people. Really try and get involved in what the school is about before you start giving that money to them. I wish I knew to ask about having live discussions, because we know Camille hates those. I wish I had asked about how much group work. I wish I had asked how big or small the classes were. And I wish that I had asked what are the processes of getting involved in the program, what that looks like, what that entails, how to really make influential changes, because a lot of times you don't even realize it, but you, as the student, you're the paying customer. You have more influence than you think. So please make sure you use those dollars wisely. And so I just think that, let me think if I had any other questions. Like the interview was probably like 45 minutes. So don't stress out too much. Don't get, like, if you're right now in the process of filling out applications and you are just like a nervous wreck about your graduate interview, it really is about you. I think I only had a few questions about my undergrad, kind of like, well, what was your undergrad and what's your work experience? And, I kind of went into some things on my resume, but it was just such a small part. The one loophole that they threw me through is that I was set up to have an interview with one of the professors. And then, like, literally, and I had, because I was like, okay, I'm going to look up this person. I'm going to, like, because I'm an A-type personality, I'm like, I'm going to look up this person and I'm going to see what I know about them. So then that way, when they ask me questions, I can be like, oh, I looked up this article that you wrote or blah, 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 blah. Like, you want to be impressive and you want to, like, let the people know, like, hey, I am taking this very seriously. And then they threw me through a loophole last second and said that the placement professor was calling me instead. I'm like, really? Like, that's not who I looked up. So, you're going to have those times where you're going to get thrown off, but how you recover is important. So they're going to be paying attention. And this was on the phone for me. Some people might have, an interview that's like a video conference call. If you're doing brick and mortar, you might have where you actually have to go into the school. Just kind of look at it like an interview. Like, I've had plenty of jobs, so I was just like, this is an interview, but it's a little bit more personal. So just be prepared to ask an answer about yourself, answer about your volunteerism, answer about your undergrad, your previous education outside of your undergrad, because some people went all the way back to like, oh, in high school. But it really depends on what your age is, because some people have come out of high school, did their undergrad, and now they're in their master's. Although with this program, I think you have to have 2 years in between your undergrad and your master's. So look at that as well, because some programs do have that stipulation, because what it is they really don't want to have people that don't have life experience outside of being in school, because you really do need to get out and experience life in order to help people, because it'll help you connect with your future clients. So if you have somebody that has only had experience with just the educational role, and that's not to say you're not living your regular life, that's not that at all, but just having that mental break from tasking, schoolwork, and your life allows you to focus more on your life and who you are as a person. And so I feel like that is why they really make sure that people have that time period in between their undergrad and their graduate. Now, there are some people that they didn't have to wait that. So, there's always those outliers, and whatever circumstances surrounding them, I don't know. I'm not in your business. So, let me think if I had any other questions that I was asked. I don't think I really did. It was not a long interview. It really wasn't. And so I preface that because I just don't want you guys to get your nerves like all worked up and say, oh my God, I don't know what else to do. The application process was pretty easy. You had to actually do an essay. So, they want to test your writing skills. And it is on a specific topic that they give you. It's not just a random topic. I think my topic was, tell us about, I think it was the one where I said, tell us about a time in your life that was influential for wanting to get into this field. I had to have 3 references, and those references had to fill out a survey. Let me see. You had to have your resume and obviously pay your application fee. Once I got accepted into the school, because it is a program towards licensure, they have to run your background check. So you had to pay for your background check, and then all your normal, school funds, if you do financial aid or grants or just pay out of pocket, or you have your place of employment pay. Those are kind of all the things that, are normal. Outside of that, the process was pretty quick. I think once I did my application and everything like that, I think I had got an email maybe like a couple weeks later. I think it was by chance because they had just literally were coming to the end of enrollment, so they were finalizing everything. Everybody was really nice and professional. So also check that too, because before this, I had called a couple of schools. Ugh, some of the people that answer, I'm like, if this is how you sound before I even exchange dollars to you, oh no, no, no. Like, you're not even trying to put up a front like I'm a nice person. That's a no for me. So yeah, just make sure that you are really doing your homework, searching and make sure that they actually are accredited, and check their accreditation standing. Like if they're an ACA accredited school, American Counseling Association, pretty sure, don't kill me if that's not right, but I'm pretty sure, but I'm tired. So, check and you can see if the school actually is accredited. You can contact the accrediting bodies. The difference between an ACA and a KCREP. A KCREP is typically what you want to, if you have to find a school, you really want to search for that. This school that I'm in right now is KCREP accredited, but they did not start out being that when I was in the program. They were in the middle of becoming KCREP accredited school. And I was actually a part of the process when the KCREP accreditors came, and it just so happened to be during my residency. So they were interviewing all of us about the program, because a part of the accreditation is you need to interview the students. You need to do a qualitative assessment. And so their qualitative assessment was interviewing the faculty, interviewing the administrative staff, and interviewing the students, because they needed to get an entire picture of the program, what it entails, what the missions, the goals, and the statements are, and how they are really being applied to the students, and do the students feel like this is helping them grow. So I was happy that, what was it? I'm losing my voice because I'm so tired. That we got KCREP accredited, which is really great. And I mentioned before in another video that if you want to work with the military, you need to make sure that you are graduating from a KCREP accredited school. Also, if you are at a school that says that they are going to get KCREP accredited, you need to first see how far in advance they are in that process, because it is a extremely lengthy process. And typically, if you graduate from a school that is not KCREP accredited and they get accredited after you graduate, I think it's like a 2-year grace period that anybody that graduated from the school during that, after that 2-year period, like during that 2-year period, you would still fall under being able to say you graduated from a KCREP accredited school. So let's say that you graduated in 2018, your school didn't actually get accredited until 2020. You can still say and put down that you graduated from a KCREP accredited school, because you would be within that 2-year time period. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. If it's wrong, let me know in the comments, but I'm pretty sure. An ACA accredited school is just a normal accreditation for a counseling school, counseling program. So most states, like every state actually, why am I saying most, you have to have your accreditation. You have to graduate from an accrediting body. You have to. I looked up so many schools and prominent name schools that they literally just kind of threw in, oh, we have a clinical, or we have a counseling program. See, that's what you need to be wary of too. If something just says, oh, we have a counseling program, that does not mean it is towards licensure. Typically, that is not towards licensure. It's not. Usually it's an add-on to just a psychology major. It is not towards licensure. If it does not specifically say in black and white towards licensure, then move along, because that's not what you want if you're trying to get licensure. So the other thing is just really checking the reviews of the school. I know that sounds kind of like what, but you know, there are reviews of schools. So, and I know that sounds really basic and most people are like, yeah, I know that. But when you're looking for schools, I think a lot of times, at least I know I did in the beginning, until I had my experiences as an undergrad student, I didn't really look at the student reviews. I was more focused on what were the qualifications of the school and what they had to offer. But it's kind of like when somebody's interviewing you, they want to check your references. So it's kind of like checking their references. And the biggest thing that I saw with my school, which I completely agree with, it's really fast paced, a lot of group, well, it didn't actually say a lot of group work, just it said group work, which I was like, okay, yeah, I expect that, not to this level. And that it can be overwhelming because the classes are only 7 weeks. And that's true. It's slamming basically a 14-week class into 7 weeks, if that gives you perspective by any measure. It's a lot. So if you are a self-starter, if you're able to stay on track and really be diligent, not necessarily militant, but pretty close to your studies, and really not just doing the work, but taking the work in, then you'll be successful in this, and you should be confident enough to find that school that you want to go to and start the application process. So, you know, if you guys have any questions for me as far as it goes that I did not address, because I'm sure there's stuff I left off, but it's been a while. I think it's been like 2.5, almost 3 years now since I did the process, because I think I didn't start until like a couple months later after I had got accepted. And so, you know, ask me in the comments section or whatever and say, hey, you didn't touch on this. Did you have to do this? Or how long did it take to do that? Or, you know, what are they looking for? Really, they're just looking for people that are authentic. If you come across as a perfect student and I have an A and I volunteer here and I do this, it's not going to come across as authentic. Even if that's the case, you really need to show a little bit more depth. You need to say, like, this happened to me in my life, and because of this, I'm this person, and I feel like I can add value to other people's lives through my experiences. And I mean, even if that's not your real answer, listen, don't be taking that answer either and just be slapping it into your interview just because. But, you know, just be true to yourself and make sure that you really want to do this, because it is very time consuming. I mean, oh my goodness, it's very time consuming. But I appreciate you guys. And please like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video. And I will see you guys in the next time. Bye.